you ready to double your real estate sales and grow your business like never before? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Real Estate Matters, hosted by Matt Curtis, leader of the #1 real estate team in Alabama for the last 6 years. With over 8,000 homes sold and more than 4,000 five-star reviews, Matt's proven strategies speak for themselves. Ready to double your sales with expert strategies? Let's dive in. This is Real Estate Matters. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Matters podcast. I'm your host, Clark Dunn, here with Matt Curtis and Matt Curtis Real Estate.
Thanks for having me. Let's jump into it. One of the things that I was really weighing on my mind right now is most real estate agents, they are terrible business people. And it's not because they don't get into real estate saying, I'm going to be a terrible business person, but you look at it and they actually defy the laws of business. How many attorneys, how many doctors' offices, how many retail shops, how many restaurants do you go to and you have one person doing everything? No, I go to Target. I don't see one person there. I don't go to my doctor's office. I don't see one person there. But that's what we try to do in real estate. And we expect to be successful business people. And we're defying the laws of business.
As we kind of dive into this infrastructure for these agents, kind of get us started, walk us through the typical listing appointment, kind of beginning with your phone.
Yeah, I think that's such a good analogy. It's like if I'm on a listing appointment and I'm with you right now, most agents, they're going to turn off their phone. That's what you do respectfully. But the challenge with most agents is business just stopped. And the question I think you have to ask yourself is, when you're on a listing appointment, when you're on a visit with a client and you turn off your phone, did your business just stop? And if you answer yes, then you're not really in business. Like if you go to Target or go to a restaurant and they're waiting on a table with somebody else, did the business stop? No, there's still people coming in. There's food being cooked. There's buses there's tables being bussed. All those things are still getting done. But in most real estate businesses, the business has stopped. And so with us, you and I, we're doing a listing appointment. I turn off my phone. I'm talking to you about things. The first thing that you think about is like, okay, all the signs that are out there. Like we have over 100 listings right now that are active, like 150, 175 or so total listings. And what is going on with those listings while you and I are meeting? First thing you got to think about is the signs. People are calling in. Like if you're hiring me, like one of the first things you should be asking is, all right, what's going on with the leads right now as you and I are talking? Are those leads still getting answered? People calling in on the signs, people calling into the office, people doing a web inquiry online, because we know speed of lead matters. You look at all the studies, and difference between 5 to 10 minutes is infinite. Difference between first 5 minutes responding and 1 hour is like a game changer. And that's how long a listing appointment is, an hour. Like if you wait until after that 1 hour, like the probability of getting hold of that person in conversion is so low. But that's why real estate agents are successful, because they don't really like a business.
Yeah, and there's so many different levels that kind of go into, getting that initial listing appointment. Talk a little bit about some of the levels of the marketing and kind of that plays a huge role in the infrastructure that you've been able to create to help agents be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the question an agent has to ask himself is, when you go on a listing appointment, hey, heck, when you go to sleep, do you have marketing working for you to generate the next lead? So if I'm at a listing appointment with you right now, I can't market if it's just me. But is there a system behind that going to generate that next listing appointment? Because we've talked about a roller coaster. Roller coaster is going to be up and down. And that's what it's going to be, is if I go on this listing appointment, I stop everything else, I'm going to be on a roller coaster by default. But with our team, we have a marketing machine. We have a marketing department. You work with some of our folks in our marketing department. We have systems in place that is proven, that is always continue to improve and take it to the next level, that's producing those next listing appointments, producing those next buyer appointments for agents.
Yeah, and a lot of it too, I mean, the infrastructure too, we've talked about in previous episodes, and it's the support team too, like you said, like the marketing, but there's so many different levels. Talk about kind of that listing coordination, and that can be a very difficult thing for agents, especially when there is so many listings, like you mentioned, out right now for your team, I mean, coordinating all of that can be a headache within itself.
Mhm. It's kinda like if, it's Friday, say you and your wife are going to a restaurant tonight. If the same person's bussing the table, greeting you, cooking the food, doing all the different things, waiting on you, refilling your waters, you're not gonna go back. It's just they might be awesome, but they're gonna get tired. They're gonna need to take a restroom break or, eat, whatever it may be. They're not gonna be able to provide you a five-star service. And that's what we do for our agents is they're on the listing appointment. We have a listing coordinator. Amazing. We're our first hire. She's been with us over 10 years. She is just salt of earth, amazing. Runs that department so well. So our agents don't have to. We have a closing team. I have to think, off the top of my head because they're growing. We're hiring right now. I think we've got 9 team members in our closing department. They schedule inspections, closings. Actually, a lot of them are licensed and they do requests for repairs work. That's some of the hardest work sometimes, the most time consuming work for an agent. We take it off their plate. You know, things like putting out signs and lot boxes, which don't sound like a big deal, but putting that sign out consistently, making sure it's clean and it's put in the ground good, it's not gonna be bent over. Like, I've seen so many signs just, laying over and they are afraid and, you know, that doesn't happen with our team because we have professionals that are really good at that side of the job so that our agents can do what they got into real estate for. I've never interviewed an agent that said, "Hey, Clark, I got into the business because I wanna put out signs." I got in the business because I wanna do marketing. I got in the business because I love inputting listings in the MLS. I've never heard it. They did it because they wanna work with clients, they wanna help buy their first home, sell their home so that they can go take that new job. Like, agents wanna serve the consumer, and that's what we allow them to do at our team.
Yeah, and then I think too, and we've mentioned in other episodes, and I think there's even stuff you're doing right now, but the client care. Talk a little bit about that during the transaction, but also post-transaction, because I think I've even seen something recently where you're doing a movie night recently. And so I think that's such a unique thing, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, but it's more than just the day of listing appointments, the closing appointments. The client care goes beyond just that.
Mhm. Client care is one of those secret weapons that we have on our team, and I was so dumb. I actually we had a team member that did an amazing job years ago, and, she moved on and did something else, and we didn't really rehire for that position for a while. We have brought that position back. It's just so, so important, because agents, they get busy. Like, our best agents, they stay in touch with their past clients, but like everything else, we need to help provide and assist with that. Um, so we get people's birthdays. We have client care who's calling 2,000 clients a month. Our client care department calls 2,000 of our clients every single month. And then we have those events. So one of the most awkward things for agents is like, what do I say to my past clients? Like, they had this great relationship, but they're like, I don't wanna just call them and bug them, and so we give them an ability for 'em to have something to say, "Hey, we got a movie night coming up." We had Dave& and Buster's, just a month or so ago, had 450 people show up, and client care invited them. They had an opportunity to invite, and there's so many I had so many clients come up to me and say, "Hey, I just wanna tell you about the great job this agent did or that agent did." And it's just so gratifying because we believe, like, our clients, they're not clients, they're, like, part of our family. And what does family do? Family again, like, our clients are part of our family. And so what does families do? They celebrate birthdays. We send them out birthday treats. Um, they celebrate holidays. We have Pie Day every single year at Thanksgiving. And then they also kind of get together during the year. That's our movie night. Those are Dave and Buster's nights. Those are those type of things. And so it's good business, but it's also just being a good human and just, developing community because, that's one of the things that, is a little bit harder now, kind of post-COVID. It's just like, there's not as much community out there. And so the more community that we can build for our family, for our clients, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that human connection, because sometimes an agent listing that's maybe at a different organization or wherever they may be might just see it as a business transaction. It's like, hey, I'm, following this lead. I've built this system, or maybe I don't have a system, but I'm following this lead and I'm doing this grind just for this transaction at the end of the day. And then y'all look at it more of like, hey, it is a transaction, but this shouldn't be something that is just a business meeting where we shake hands and leave and never see each other again. There's so many different layers to this. But I think, before you can even get into this infrastructure that we've just addressed, there's some areas that you need to kind of
Yeah,
look at.
if you don't mind, let me kind of jump into something too. Um, we actually sent out an email. We sent out an email now to our past clients, inviting them to that movie
Mhm.
night. We call it past clients. So, and we put in, I didn't catch this. We put in the email, hey, past clients. I was like, oh, don't ever do that again. These are folks that are still actively part of our family. We don't want to call them past clients. And so that's really, really important. I think there's one other thing that I want to add as well. I think we have an amazing career in real estate, just in general. Like, we can drive our own income. We can make not a whole lot, or we can make a whole lot. But then we also help people build generational wealth. Homeowners have 40 times the net worth versus renters. So we're helping build wealth in this country. And so that's really like the bedrock of the middle class is home ownership and building wealth that way. So it's a really important part of the economy. But I think there's one piece that's missing for most real estate businesses, and it's a part of making an impact. And so with our team, we pull everything together, and every 100 homes, we're building a home for a family in Central America. And so an agent that sold 100 homes in their career, they can be like, I changed a family tree for a family over in Central America. Or, hey, I sold 20, like, that's a fifth of what I did, like, change this family's life forever. And just like the tears that these families have getting these homes. And of course, we do a lot of local things. I know, Lee Marshall, we do a lot with Kids to Love and other organizations. But I think that's the third component that makes the business so special for our agents as well.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the past clients verbiage is not a good one because they're always going to be a client, and their impact and their ability and their willingness to work with you is allowing you to do the things that we've just talked about. And I think that's such a unique thing and such a cool thing that is often not seen.
Mhm.
Um,
And for
there's
our clients too, like, they helped provide a home for a family in Central America too.
Yeah. And so this infrastructure is such an important thing for these agents. But there's a couple things. There's three different areas of concern or things that need to be addressed before this infrastructure can even be built. Talk about that first one of kind of that onboarding process for these agents and how that has to be a sound process before they can even say, "Hey, I need to build an infrastructure."
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too is, agents come in, they say, "All right, I like the structure and everything that's taking place." And some teams, they try to replicate that. I haven't seen anybody replicate, like, we've got 19, admin team members. I haven't seen anybody be able to do that. They try to, cherry pick them, a lot of them might have a transaction coordinator or something like that. Um, but they'll try to do certain things, but the piece that they miss, and quite frankly, we were missing, like, this is a lesson that we've learned, is that first 90 days at onboarding. For many people, it's the team leader, and the team leader's trying to sell, they're trying to onboard and train, or, okay, well, I can't do that, so I'm gonna do a mentorship program. So I'm gonna take my best agents and have them now be a mentor, and now their production's either gonna go down or they're gonna get burnt out. I've made that mistake, but I see teams still making that mistake. You gotta have a dedicated team member. Like, for us, it's like 3 team members. It's one is dedicated, recruiting, helping new agents come on board, answering questions. That is a full-time job. Second is, once they come on, that first 90 days, help them get to 2 to 5 sales in that first 90 days. All the training, and then that passes off to our sales manager to continue to onboard and support and help them be successful with their career. And that's where a lot of teams just, frankly, get it wrong, because usually it's a team leader, and then the team leader is still having to make sales to pay the bills, and then some of these agents, they're just not getting trained right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the lessons and the things that you've created and you've learned, I mean, I think sometimes the best lessons and the best infrastructure is things that you learn from failure. And I think you've been able to, build a system in place that is visible to the agents coming in that says, hey, I understand the onboarding process. I've gotten the sales and I've gotten this accountability and I've gotten trained up within the system of Matt Curtis Real Estate. And, for these agents, this infrastructure, like you said at the beginning, it is not often seen. This infrastructure is not pretty, not something that you can, you build and you can show somebody or a physical thing necessarily all the time. But this infrastructure is what makes your agents different. And I think it's what the agents that are listening, that are looking for something different, that are looking for something that is, hey, I have these pieces, but they're just not in the right place.
Yeah, and don't take my word for it. Look at the counter billboard going up. It's going up every single day. Look at the review count going up on Google. Like, don't take my word for it. Check out the reviews. Check out the sales.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here today.
Yeah.
That's a wrap for this episode of Real Estate Matters, helping you double your sales and build a thriving business. But real success is about impact. That's why Matt's team has built over 140 homes for families in Central America, changing lives beyond real estate. Loved what you heard? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow agent. For more expert insights, visit mattcurtisrealestate.com or find us on social media at Matt Curtis Real Estate. See you next time on Real Estate Matters.